Nobody wants a hangry council, and we were just receiving an audit presentation just prior to this. So thank you very much. We will call our meeting to order at 6:02. If we should encounter an emergency situation, you can exit the building from either of the doors off of the lobby. If for some reason those doors are not available, there's another exit behind council here. Our muster point is located near the gazebo in Lions Park, and if we are evacuated for any reason, we will not re-enter the building until we're given an all clear from staff. We will start today with our land acknowledgement. Councillor Payne.
The town of Sylvan Lake respectfully acknowledges that the land on which we gather is Treaty 6 territory, home to the Métis Nation of Alberta Region 3. These lands are traditional meeting grounds, gathering places, and travel routes for many nations, including the Cree, Dene, Blackfoot, Métis, Saulteaux, and Nakota Sioux. We are grateful for the traditional knowledge keepers and elders who are still with us today, and for those who have gone before us. We acknowledge and thank all of the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for centuries.
Thank you, Councillor Payne. Next up, we have our proclamations for tonight. We have one proclamation, and it's for Economic Development Week, which is May 11th to 17th, 2025. And it is as follows. Whereas economic development is the intentional practice of improving a community's economic well-being and quality of life through a broad range of activities to attract, create, and retain jobs, and to foster a resilient, pro-growth tax base and an inclusive economy. And whereas economic developers are engaged in a wide variety of settings, including rural and urban, local, provincial, and federal governments, public-private partnerships, chambers of commerce, universities, and a variety of other institutions. And whereas economic developers stimulate and incubate entrepreneurism in order to help establish the next generation of new businesses, which is the hallmark of Alberta's economy. And whereas the town of Sylvan Lake is committed to creating an attractive business environment with a diverse economy that allows businesses to thrive and grow by supporting and attracting new investment that creates high-quality jobs and brings new residents to our community. And whereas for 50 years, Economic Developers Alberta has been Alberta's leading economic development network, committed to advancing the economic development profession by building resources, professional development, and networking opportunities. And now therefore be it resolved that I, Megan Hansen, Mayor of Sylvan Lake, do proclaim the week of May 11th to 17th, 2025 as Economic Development Week in the town of Sylvan Lake. Thank you. Next, we'll move to open microphone. This is an opportunity for residents of Sylvan Lake I lost that page of notes, and I've lost my words, to share some feedback with us. We have a maximum of 15 minutes available for open microphone, with each presentation lasting a maximum of 5 minutes. And tonight we have one sign up for open microphone, and it is Megan Epp. So welcome. You can come have a seat in the front. If you can start by pressing the button in the center of the microphone, and then we're happy to hear from you. And we do have your email circulated to council as well. So. You will hear a whole bunch of beeps. So once those finish, then we're happy to hear from you. There you go. Thanks.
Hello. Hi. Thanks for having me. Good evening, Mayor Megan Hansen and council members. So yes, I did send an email, but I thought I would come and represent in person as well. So I'm here to speak on our application for rezoning. So on behalf of House of Music and our Creative Arts Preschool, I'm here to speak on our request for a zoning amendment to our Creative Arts Preschool location at 4719 46th Street, Sylvan Lake. Currently, this location is considered for public and quasi-public use. So we have learned that that means a use of land or a building for purpose of public administration and services, and shall also include a building for the purpose of assembly, instruction, culture, recreation, or other community activity. And that is why the preschool was allowed to go there. So currently, this description allows for the use of our preschool operation, but unfortunately does not allow for the use of teaching music lessons. Legislation categorizes teaching music lessons under the commercial school. So that's what we've learned. And under the commercial school definition, a facility that provides education or training to students of all ages in general education, recreation, life skills, or business skills, and includes dance, schools, athletic training facilities, martial arts schools, business schools, secretarial schools, cosmetology, hair, dressing, doesn't include industrial training facility. So there's some significant overlap there. So when we were starting the pursuit of finding a permanent location for the preschool last year, we were also exploring the option of being able to move the music studio portion of our business into the same location. And so last May, we had a meeting with Mayor Megan Hansen and council members, and here we discussed the eligibility to be able to combine both operations, music lesson and preschool, under the public quasi-use. We didn't understand the discrepancies made between the two sets of zonings, nor the fact that we were allowed to teach music lessons as part of our preschool curriculum, which also includes us teaching dance and yoga and all of those fun extracurriculars in our preschool program. But unfortunately, we weren't allowed to teach private music lessons after the fact. So that was a very frustrating experience. So we were informed that we would need to apply for the rezoning to allow for the commercial school. That the process would take about 6 months and the application could cost $1,000, and also had many opportunities to be denied along the way. So at that time, the process presented too many uncertainties and the timeline wasn't feasible. So we decided to put our efforts elsewhere to just keep both locations separate. We've got our ducks in a row, and now we're kind of here back to pick up the pieces from where we left off. So we hope that council hears our rationale and will support the zoning amendment so that we can operate preschool and music lessons in the same building. So that's my spiel.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Council, this is our opportunity to ask questions of the applicant. Do you have any questions on the presentation? Seeing none, thank you very
No
much
questions?
for coming to
I'm here. Okay.
for coming to present, and we will be addressing that a little bit later in tonight's
Okay.
agenda. So,
Okay, thank you so much.
thank you. Next, we'll look for adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions to the agenda tonight or changes to the agenda? Ms. Phillips? Any changes? No? Wonderful. Would someone like to make a motion to adopt the agenda? Councillor Rilling?
I make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Excellent. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. Next, we have the consent agenda. The consent agenda is an opportunity for us to increase meeting efficiency. There's a number of items that have been marked with an asterisk, and those are those recommended to be included in the consent agenda by administration. Council, if we would like to pull any of those items for in-detailed questions or a discussion, now is our opportunity to do that. Is there any items that you'd like to pull? Seeing none, would someone like to make the motion for the consent agenda? Councillor Dakin, thank you.
You're welcome. I move that the 2025 April 14th regular meeting of council meeting minutes be approved as presented, and that the 2025 April 15th special meeting of council meeting minutes be approved as presented, and that the council grant first reading to bylaw 1925-2025 as presented in AIR 1152, being a bylaw to amend the land use bylaw 1695-2015, and that council sets May 26, 2025 at 6 p.m. in council chambers of the Municipal Government Building as the date, time, and place for the public hearing on bylaw 1925-2025.
Excellent. Thank you. Last call if there's any items that we'd like to discuss, but seeing no hands, all those in favor and opposed, that is carried unanimously. All right, we will now move along to public hearings and delegations. Council had the opportunity a little bit earlier today to already meet with our auditor and review in further detail, but we would also like the opportunity to invite Mr. Pfeiffer to join us, who is our auditor, to join us and give a quick overview of any of the highlights to ensure that they're entered into the public record. So we'll let you settle in there. And then you saw the drill with the microphone. We don't have the same timer to start your delegation presentation, but we are happy to hear from you whenever you're ready.
Great, thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm just going to hit the highlights of the 2024 financial statements for the town. Specifically, would just like to speak to the consolidated statement of financial position first. Just want to indicate that the net debt position of the town of Sylvan Lake decreased from 24.8 million down to 19 million for the year ended December 31st, 2024. And the town ended up with an accumulated surplus for the year of 221,837 million and change versus 208 million in the prior year. Secondly, I would just like to speak to the consolidated statement of operations. Just indicate that the excess of revenues over expenses before government transfers and contributed tangible capital was 1.7 million versus a $2.9 million loss in the prior year. And after government transfers, contributed capital, and some gains on disposal of tangible capital assets, the excess of revenue over expenses, or the annual surplus of the town, was 13,887,756 versus 5,101,679 in 2023. And lastly, I'd just like to speak to the statement of cash flows. It's on the back of one of these pages here. Here we are. Had mine out of order. Excuse me. Consolidated statement of cash flows for the year ended December 31st, 2024. Just wanted to indicate that the cash provided by operating activities for the town amounted to 19.7 million versus 10.4 million in the prior year. In terms of capital activities, cash used in capital activities was just over 14 million versus 10.6 million in the prior year. Cash used in investing activities was 1.9 million versus an actual inflow of 675,000 in the prior year. And then in terms of financing activities, cash outflows for financing activities were 1.7 million in the current year versus $5.5 million inflow in the prior year. So when you net all of those activities, the town had an increase in cash for the year of 2.1 million. Add that to its opening cash position of 14 million, you end up with just over 16.1 million in total cash at December 31st, 2024.
Excellent. Council, do we have any additional questions that have arisen? Seeing none, thank you very much for your presentation again.
You're welcome.
And council will have the opportunity to approve this a little later this evening if there's no further questions.
Great, thank you.
Thank you so much.
This is turned
Safe
on.
travels back. Thank you. All right, next we have a public hearing for bylaw 1920-2025. The purpose of this hearing is for council to receive public input regarding proposed bylaw 1920-2025, being a bylaw to amend the town's land use bylaw 1695-2015. The public hearing was advertised in the Sylvan Lake News on April 3rd and April 10th, 2025. I declare that the public hearing for bylaw 1920-2025 is now open. Town administration will now provide background on the proposed amendment. Mr. Symington, welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. So bylaw 1920-2025 is a site-specific land use amendment to the land use bylaw to add commercial school as a discretionary use within the medium-density residential district on Lot 11, Block 8, Plan 2420906. This would allow for the consideration of this type of use on this property.
Excellent, thank you. The following procedures will be used for the hearing. Presentations to council shall be brief and to the point, limited to 5 minutes. The persons wishing to make comments will be given an opportunity to comment only once. The order of presentations will be as follows. First, those in support of the proposed amendment, then those opposed by the proposed amendment, then any other person deemed to be affected by the amendment who wishes to be heard, and finally, administration. Council shall not allow cross-examination of persons giving information, and it will not be necessary for the persons giving information to verify his or her qualifications. Council may ask questions of the speakers after each presentation for clarification purposes, and debating or questions from the floor will not be allowed. Please note that council will not accept any verbal or written submissions after the hearing has been deemed closed. This hearing is now open. At this time, I will ask administration to read any comments that have been submitted prior to the meeting on proposed bylaw 1920-2025. And I'm seeing a head nod, so we have no submissions. With this hearing, hearing is now open for presentations of anyone who's in attendance who claims to be affected by the proposed bylaw. We'll start with anyone who is in support of proposed bylaw 1920-2025. And I'll give a second call for anyone who is here in support. We'll now look to anyone who is here who is opposed to the proposed bylaw 1920-2025. And I'll give one more call. Is there anyone who is here to speak in opposition? The hearing is now open for anyone else deemed to be affected by the proposed bylaw. This is not uncommon. And one more call for anyone else who could be affected by the bylaw who'd like to speak tonight. I don't believe that we'll need a follow-up questions or presentation on the many speakers we heard from tonight, but council, I'll give you that opportunity. And are there any questions from, yes, I answered that. If there's no further questions from council, I hereby declare that this public hearing is closed. I remind participants that council will not receive written or verbal submissions after the hearing is closed. And that is it. Thank you. Okay, next we will move along to our business items, policies, procedures, and directives updates.
So I'm going to present on this one. So this is a policy that administration's been working on. It was actually Betty who was working on it with administration prior and then left it with me to ensure that we were all on the same page. So the intent is to clarify some of the policies, update the template, and remove, we changed the wording to administrative directives and procedures from policies. So council's role would be continuing to adopt policies, and then the ones that were more operational would go to administration. With this being said, we are planning on, if council supports this updated policy, administration will then bring forward a list of the policies that we recommend get shifted over to directives, and then we would, as we bring them in, or sorry, as we are ready to adopt the directives, we would then also bring forward to have those policies repealed as they would become administrative, which would then be approved by the CAO. But you will know which ones they are, and the support will come from you as council on which ones can be, you agree that they be moved to directives. And within this policy as well, we also have the timeline of 4 years for all policies to be reviewed. So administration would be then working diligently to start updating some of the older policies and getting them up to date. And then as we move forward, then every 4 years, every policy will be reviewed, even if it's just to say it's been reviewed and it's now renewed. If there's any questions.
That's great. Council, questions? If not, would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Payne.
I move that council approves proposed policy L001002D, policies, procedures, and directives with noted changes as described in report AIR 1153.
Excellent. Any comments or discussion? Councillor Dakin.
Yes, inside the procedure on item 1,
Maybe one item ahead of us.
No, I'm so ready for this.
Sorry.
It's the one after we approve this one, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, I'll be ready for that one then.
I can't wait. I do have a comment, and I don't necessarily need a change to this time, but I did wonder at what point we talk about the binder that these are stored in within this. Is there a time when we go away from the binder and when we actually mention within the document that SharePoint is our storage place, or in addition to the binder, I guess? I will be honest, I have not read the binder, so I did ask a silly question of our legislative services team earlier today, and it's because most of us on council specifically do all of our work remotely. So I certainly expect to be able to find them online, and I wonder if the next time we do an update, because I think that's a minor thing and it's already our practice, that might be something we want to clarify, that online storage is something that we also do. So, comment.
You read my mind. I was looking at that earlier today, so thinking the exact same thing, how many people actually access the binder rather than going on SharePoint.
Mm-hmm. And to me, I would think that that would be the most updated source, is the online one, because we're able to do that quickly. I'm not sure, but it probably is very updated in the binder too. But so next revision, I'd like us to consider that, but certainly that's not a revision that's needs to hold anything up for me. Thank you. Any additional comments or debate, council? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor and opposed, and that is carried. All right, now we can move along to the council administrative responsibilities policy. All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. I'm here today to speak in regards to the council administration responsibilities policy. So this policy is a response to a request that was made by council to assist with governance, accountability, and timely responses on inquiries. So the purpose of this report is to ensure a clear, effective, and efficient process for councillors to request information or communicate with administration while minimizing delays and unnecessary workload. So within the policy, it outlines the steps for elected officials to request information from administration to ensure timely responses on both simple issues and those requiring more complex information and research. The policy addresses the process for council to present a notice of motion, communication with administration, attendance at meetings and events, the process to activate an alternative, as well as deputy mayor responsibilities and expectations. By adopting this policy, council will make clear the expectations of council and administration and improve communication between elected officials and administration. So council has the following options to approve the policy L-002-017 as presented. Council can request additional information or clarification from administration before making this decision, and council can decline to adopt proposed policy L-002-017. So administration respectfully recommends that council would approve the council administrative responsibilities policy L-002-017. Is there any questions? Excellent. I have no doubt we will have a ton of debate on this, because this is one policy that is directly related to our roles. So I look forward to diving in, but we'll start with, are there any questions of Ms. Nelson? Councillor Ostindi.
One question was the definition of a senior administrative officer. It shows up on page 46. I think I assume who that is, but there's no official definition for senior administrative officer, and I was just wondering, because that does affect who I communicate with. So I was thinking.
Yeah, so the senior, sorry, where is it? The senior administrative officer?
It's on page 46.
Yes, senior administrative officer. So that is the executive, the
executive assistant to the CAO was the term previously used. And now the term of that particular role is the senior administrative officer. So right now that would be Anna.
Would we, as a follow-up question, would we need that to be a definition in the policy procedure, or is that just fine as is? I mean, we have all these other definitions. I'm not looking to make it longer, but
Certainly.
if
Yes,
there's
we
a
can
problem.
add that definition. It would align with the other, positions that are in there, so we could definitely add that.
Okay. Any additional questions? I did have one, but I won't step on Councillor Rilling's toes unless you. Am I? I know you do. Can I ask it on your behalf? It is around. Oh, did I lose it too? Don't tell me. Yes, you absolutely did. You're right, because it's one more agenda item. We're all moving ahead one today. It's a Monday, everybody. I think I just gave Councillor Rilling a heart attack, because I'm like, I know you have a question, and she's frantically looking for the... Okay, scratch that. It's not on this one. I think, do we have any other questions? And then we can get a motion on the floor to go into conversing around this. Seeing none, would someone like to make that motion? Councillor Parsons.
Move that council approve the council administrative responsibilities policy L-002-017 as presented in report AR 1132.
Councillor Dakin, you had a comment or some...
I have a series of questions, but I'll start.
Very good. Why don't we go, actually, to make this easier, why don't we go section by section? Because there could be some throughout. So if there's any comments on, under procedure, section 1.
Yep.
Anywhere in there.
I do.
Go ahead.
Great. That's where I'm starting. So specifically this, under 1A bullet point 1 and 1A bullet point 3. Bullet point 3 includes that all members of council have to be included in the email, but bullet point 1 does not. And I understand that it says, if a councillor receives a resident inquiry or acquires a service of information that does not require significant research of staff time, I think through this whole thing, we're gonna find that everyone has a different definition of what that means. And I think that it would be just prudent to include all council members in emails, just CC, you know? It keeps things consistent, and then you're not, oh, is this gonna be 10 minutes of their time, but it turns into be an hour, and so it's bullet point 1, bullet point 3. All my request is that bullet point 1 could say, if a councillor receives a resident inquiry or requires service, that it is included to the CAO, senior administrative officer, and all of council.
Yeah.
If that's simple enough. Oh, nice, thanks.
Yep, absolutely.
And in fact, that's consistent with what I thought that was in my mind, but clarifying that is helpful. So. On item number 1, is there any other adjustments? And just for council's process, I expect there to be some adjustments throughout this. My opinion is that this is not time sensitive, and if we had some substantial adjustments, this could come back without, there wouldn't be a negative outcome to that. Is that consistent with your thoughts? Excellent. So, Councillor Ostindi.
I like what Councillor Dakin just said, and but I was just thinking about, sometimes people ask a question where they do not want, say, their business interest to be revealed publicly or in a wide circle of people. And I was just thinking, is there any reason that we would not want to share something, an inquiry? I'm just trying to think in my mind of the odd requests I've had over time that were sensitive. And I'm just wondering about that. But I do like the intent, absolutely. I'm game to CC.
You know,
I'm just
my own answer to that, if that was the case, I would certainly welcome them to have a confidential conversation directly with the CAO. But if it's flowing through council, that's a different avenue.
Sure.
And I think this is consistent with our practice, especially recently. We've been more conscious trying to do that. And if missed, the reply includes all to make sure that we've caught up on that. So this is just what we're currently doing. Just trying to put it in writing. Councillor Dakin.
I think that's a slippery slope. I think that opening it up to say you and me, or sorry, let's say, okay, somebody wants to do business with the town of Sylvan Lake, and I'm said, okay, well, let's have a private meeting with Dawn.
No, I would direct them without us to say,
yes,
you
so
know, if
that's what I mean.
if
Like,
you
I
don't want
wouldn't
us me to email it to all of council, you are welcome to reach out directly.
I want clarity on that. So I just want to say that, you know, I can't just email Dawn and say, Joe is really interested in doing a fishing shack, you know, blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? I think it should be, I just need that to be transparent, because that didn't sound like that, the way I heard it. Because I'm hearing that, like, if it's confidential and they're trying to ask you to help them.
I like the intent of the being as open so that we're as aware of as many issues as possible. And I like that idea. But sometimes you get questions from people that are very confidential in a business way, that they just don't want to reveal their business plan before they really launch a business or other matters of the heart.
Councillor Payne and then Mearns.
But our decision-making processes shouldn't be in silos. As a council, we decide as a council. We don't decide individually. So if somebody is coming to you with a question about something that they'd like your help with, it's not your help they're looking for, it's council's help. So really, it needs to be council that understands. One of the worst things that we can do is keep our little pieces of information. And then what happens is somebody comes to council and says, well, council didn't do this. Well, we didn't do it because we didn't know. Because one did and the other 6 didn't. So I think it needs to be clear for everyone.
Councillor Burns.
Just for clarity on the conversation, if that was to happen, we would suggest that individual go directly to the CAO, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, I'm okay. I'm not hearing objection to adding in those couple of words for clarity. Not seeing that. Councillor Dakin, do you have more under item number 1? No. Great. And let's say any part of item number 1, including A, B, C. I think it only goes to B. A or B.
Okay, then yes.
Great.
Sorry. So under B for complex inquiries, request significant staff time. If a request is expected to require substantial research, which is more than 4 hours of administrative effort, or any budget allocation, it may necessitate a council motion. The council should bring the matter forward by submitting a notice of motion at that regular council meeting. But in here, should they send the email, and then is it, I know this is a procedure for us, but is it administrative procedure then to respond back to us just that, please put a notice of motion in? Right? And then is there an administrative policy for that?
I think with this direction, we would just provide that communication back. This request will take a significant amount of time. As per 1B of this policy, we recommend you submit a notice of motion to go through that process, and then we can move forward.
Okay, so that will be done on the administrative side each and every time. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Excellent. I did in the examples. I sure hope no one's putting in a request to grade a parking lot, but let's move to item number 2. Is there any comments in that area? Seeing none. Along item number 3. Number 4. And you know, I think most of this is kind of common practice that we already do. So it's just great for clarity of new councillors coming in and that everyone's aware. Yeah, Councillor Dakin.
I think that in number 4, it isn't clear enough to say, it doesn't define it where, for example, if I look at my calendar and I see that one person's away and it's the weekend and I want to go somewhere for the weekend, it does not say in here that if I do not have any responsibilities, right, that I have to go to, that I would need to let somebody know that I'm leaving town. It doesn't say that in here. Is that a requirement?
Councillor Payne.
I think the requirement is if something emergent happens, not knowing that you're not available. And so I think if we have a situation where suddenly there needs to be an emergency council meeting called right now, it's just, to me, it's just courtesy to let Carrie know, hey, I'm going to be out of town at this point. Like if you're going to Red Deer, it's different.
But you have to define it. You have to be like, okay, I'm going to Edmonton for my son's dance competition.
Sure.
I'm going to be gone on Saturday. Like, is it an hour and a half? Like, if I can be back in X, it's just not defined. And
I
I
think
guess
that's
that's where it's important for the next
Yeah.
council.
I think that's a great point. We can, I think we can work on a line that clarifies that. And I'll tell you, my personal line is, if a special meeting or an emergency needed to be called, if I couldn't get back within a handful of hours, I want to put it in the calendar. If I'm, yeah, if I'm depending on flights, if I'm whatever that is. So I think that could be defined. Yeah.
So define handful of hours. Yeah.
We will define that. Yeah, and I would say, certainly anytime you're on a plane and you can't directly control when the next flight is, those kinds of things. But yeah, let's clarify that. Is there any others under councillor absences? Okay, Deputy Mayor roles and responsibilities and expectations. Councillor Ostindi.
Not so much number 5, but it's what from number 6 could go into number 5. I don't think we need the heading number 6, logistics and expectations, because everything in number 6 falls under that title, Deputy Mayor, other than the piece about committee representation, board and committee. That needs its own title.
I actually only thought the things under event representation and speech preparation could potentially be moved to Deputy Mayor. I think board and committee representation and changes in event attendance should remain under item 6.
Yeah, that's kind of how I drew it on my paper.
But those two, event representation and speech preparation, are really specific to the Deputy Mayor role. So I think we could move those up in category.
Yep.
Great, I have the same note. Any others under Deputy Mayor? See none. The remaining items of logistics and expectations, which would be board and committee representation and changes in event attendance. Are there any concerns there? I'll talk, let me know if you want to jump in. What I will say that is in here, and I just want to draw a big spotlight on it, is this change is that we will be responsible for every committee meeting to submit the form that was sent out this afternoon. So that is something that if we pass this, we are agreed to that, and we certainly want to discuss if we want something different than then. And a question was asked earlier about how much do you need to fill out. I think you look at that form and look at every field every time you fill it out, but there is only 3 required fields. So fill out the ones that are applicable. It asks a great question in that form around how this aligns with our strategic plan, those kinds of things. Those should be filled out some of the time, but there are some times when it's a quick note that only falls within one of those categories. So fill out what is applicable to each meeting. It's not meant to be that you take an extra hour after your meeting to fill it out, but some meetings might have a lot of notes. It's a point form submission that we're looking for that just ensures that if you miss the next meeting and someone's got to step in your place, they can quickly look back on, because we all have access, one, to fill it out, but we also all have access to see those reports, that person could look back and say, ooh, Mayor Hansen was away the last meeting. She committed to bring back this information. Do I know it so I can bring it back to the committee? Any of those takeaways, and it hopefully will help make our transition in October after organizational meetings or after elections much simpler, because we've been able to carry that on. It also should change how our committee of the wholes function, because there won't be that verbal reporting unless there's something that needs to be highlighted. So let me shine a spotlight on that. I don't want it to just be passed without us really being conscious of what that looks like, and it is moving to paper reporting. I'll also say that I think this is a best practice in most municipalities of our size and larger. So it's just bringing us into what many others do. And so we don't lose anything. I've been testing it out the last month or two since we originally found out it was an option for us. And there's some things I probably wouldn't have made it to the committee of the whole because it's 3 weeks later that I have reported on in there that I hope you guys find of interest some of the time. So, Councillor Rilling and then Dakin.
I just have a question about, like, I filled it out all of April, but I've gone to some conferences, and of course that is not aligned with any of the committees, but I just put other, and then I just report under comments. Is that sufficient, or are we going to have when it drops down for options, will there be a conference one?
I think we could create a category that is conferences/education, potentially. So if you
Okay.
have something to report, it is not mandatory, I will say, in the same way that committee ones are.
Right.
But really encouraged, because there's some great info that comes from those conferences. And yeah, I love that we can share that back. And then still keep the other category, because who knows what else might come up. But I think it's probably okay to say we could add one more category there. But yeah, great way to share information and ensure that we're all getting value out of something that we learn. Councillor Dakin.
Will we still be sharing our reports at Committee of the Whole, or are we just reading it? Or at the, when we do our summary?
I think the intention would be that those reports are then included in the Committee of the Whole. If you had one or two items to highlight, I think that we should still keep space for that, because there's sometimes something extra, but this would become the primary reporting tool, because we don't always have an extra 45 minutes at the end of those Committee of the Whole agendas as we add more items to it. So
I really don't like it.
okay.
I really don't. It is, I think it takes away from speaking freely with one another about it. I feel like sometimes things could get missed that way, unless you're on the committee, unless you purposefully chase it down and look for it. Also, when we talk about it out loud, a lot of people don't know where to look in an agenda if it becomes public information. Can it become public information outside of the Committee of the Whole, or wherever we do that, wherever we are going to be putting these? Can it become public information somewhere else? Like updates on where council has done this week, kind of a thing. If that was the case, then I would like it a little bit more. But I think it loses its, I don't know, I feel like it's not as shared for some reason.
Yeah.
So I really don't like it.
Okay. I will say we will still certainly keep space if there's things to highlight. This is just the backup reporting. And I'll say, even when I look at our history at Committee of the Wholes, we all aren't reporting on all things, because sometimes someone else attended that or that duplication. So I hope that it is another layer of that. If you've got great things to share, I hope we'll still always keep space for those couple of things that you really want to highlight for. But Councillor Cindy.
Is the intent for these reports to be public?
Yes, they would be in our Committee of the Whole agenda, so they are public.
So then I will write in a different style. Because, you know, when you know you're going to be judged publicly, you don't just make, you know, you have a different communication style than if you're just sharing with your colleague who's been at that committee and knows that committee. So I think that I'm glad to know that, because then I will approach it differently.
But I will say,
that will take me more time.
Still allow it to be point form. Although the public, you know, certainly has access to this, they are public. It is not intended that this should be an onerous thing at the end of a meeting. This is a quick update on a few highlights.
Because some committees we go to, thinking of one this morning, wastewater, to write point form on there, you know, very quickly goes beyond people's depth, and they'll just think, what a stupid report this guy writes. I don't understand a damn thing most Indy ever puts in his reports. And then if I go to Community Hub, I might be a saint, just because I can write those issues so easily at a regular, understandable level to the topics that we all understand day to day. So it's a tough one, that, you know, how, when you say this report's public and the public's going to read it, it's a different way of writing. So I'm just being cautious to myself and just raising that concern. But I don't mind the concept of these reports to share information to colleagues, for sure. Public means I'm going to spend way more time writing. I just know it, because that's just the way. And I'm not Mr. Writer, as one of my other colleagues is, because I come from a math background.
Sure. Councillor Dakin.
Same. I'm a creative. So for me to write reports like this, I don't mind what people, I mean, I'm an honest person. Everyone always knows what I'm like. I put my heart on my sleeve. But I'm not the best linguist, for sure. So yeah, please don't judge my writing skills, okay? It's not my forte. And I guess, again, just to really send it home, I would much rather share it in Committee of the Whole, round table, way less paperwork, way less work sitting on the sidelines, filling out this document and trying to find it, and you know what I mean? It was much simpler. It was just right there, and it was like 3 things. It just looks onerous to me.
Yeah. let's hear other thoughts.
Just the same, have the report. If it's simple, it's simple, and if you have to expand on it at committee of the whole, there's time for it. But as long as we have the documentation, shows that you were there, for one thing, okay, that's another part of it. And then if there's something more to expand on it, then at committee of the whole, have at her.
Yeah. Councillor Riley.
I like it because then I don't have to think about it anymore. I really do. I love filling it out. I do it, I've done it all this month, and I love it because I go there, I mean, sometimes I'll go back even and add a couple things because I think, oh, I should put that in there. But usually it's like, great, now I don't have to think about this anymore because I have a lot of committees and it's nice, and I could go back and check to make sure that I reported on all of them when I was reviewing it, and I really like that.
That's great. Councillor Mearns and Payne, I haven't heard from you, and I am interested in your thoughts. Councillor Mearns, sure.
I'm fine with it. There's lots of great resources out there that can take point form, you plug it in, and it spits it out for you. I'm sure most of us are aware. So yeah, I'm fine with it.
Councillor Payne.
I just want you to know I won't be using ChatGPT. So criticize all you wish. I'll be just fine.
I think we've just agreed on a mutual pact that we won't be judging each other on our writing skills. We're just looking for a few key tidbits, and this meeting is on YouTube as well, so public, please also don't judge our point form notes. Councillor Dakin.
I'm not going to speak negatively about it. I just have a curiosity. Who here's filled it out? Who here's done it? And so did I today. And the rest haven't experienced what I've experienced yet. So that's why I'm like, have you done it? Because we'd have a different opinion, friends.
Okay, well, the perk of this is, I think the direction, there's been enough edits and changes, is that we'd like to send those back and have this come back at the next meeting. I would still really encourage, if we could fill out this month's, because this is how I'd like to do the next committee of the whole. But before we get a final stab at going forward with this, we will all get a chance to try it. So please demo it over the next couple of weeks. Councillor Mearns.
Clarity, you would like this filled out for the month of April or going into the month of May?
Ideally, anything that has been filled out, let's say from today forward, but anything that has gone in this last month will be included. We'll do a bit of a hybrid on this upcoming committee of the whole, but really for the month of April, it would be great if this is fully implemented. And this will come back, I think it would be okay to say this could come back in our next council meeting. So it'll be early next month that we would be doing the final approval of this to allow for the next committee of the whole to be fully this way. But please all try it at least once before that. Okay, under item number 6, is there anything else that we'd like to discuss here?
Yes.
Councillor Dakin.
Sorry for talking so much today. Changes in event attendance. Changes in event attendance, this is if your availability changes after confirming attendance at an event, inform an EA or mayor as soon as possible to allow time to find an alternate council member to attend in your place. So are we talking about events, like we're never paid to be at an event. These are, yeah, like it's okay, so like Chatting with Council is a great example of this, okay? So, you say you can go to Chatting for Council, but then, you see the 4 other people are going, and then all of a sudden it's my son's baseball game. And so I'm like 4 days before, I'm like, nope, not going, or maybe I switch it to a maybe, we'll see how the weather is, right? What's the definition of as soon as possible? That's just too vague. So, you should have a decision based on that 4 days out.
Let me speak on Chatting with Council. How the process is booked, I create it, I send it out. If more than the set amount of people say yes, it is booked. So if that changes at any point before, please let me know. I've had a number of times where it's been booked and we had 6 people who said yes, and then the day of, everyone has changed it to a no, and I don't get a notification necessarily, so we've ended up in a scramble. I would say any paid event. Chatting with Council is one of those.
Okay.
The deputy mayor, if they are so maybe we could clarify this. This is just my own feeling. Deputy mayor, if they are bringing greetings or in official attendance, that would be another one. And it really is, please leave us enough time to find an alternate. Or, as stated in the absence policy, really, if you could find that alternate is another option for that, so that we're not scrambling the day of. Yeah, Ms. Nelson.
So just in addition to the event attendance, this is also in regards to, say, external events that council has been asked to go to that I've RSVP'd ahead of time from like the tracking of being accepted, say, like MCMC bowling or like events like that where I've already RSVP'd for you. So then in the event, it would say that you've been RSVP'd. So at that point, if something does change, it would be good to let me know just so that I can let those external people also aware that we won't be coming, and to see if we can have somebody in your place if we have time, or just to let them know that you won't be there.
Actually, that's a great example, paid or not. I can't think of any event, if you have said yes, if that changes, that there shouldn't be a notification. And we always have the option to click tentative until you're sure what that is. But if you've said attending, if that changes, whether it be for public event, for for anything like that, yeah, I think it's reasonable that we all do the notification process. Is that fair? Councillor Payne?
I got nothing with this. I'm perfectly fine. I just may use that tentative button a lot.
Me too, maybe. And that's okay. You know, as a chatting with council, for example, if 6 people put tentative, we wouldn't confirm that booking and we wouldn't advertise it, right? Then we would know. I'd do some final follow-ups, and we might nudge you to move that tentative to a yes or a no, but we would make that booking decision based on accepted councillors. So I encourage you to use the tentative button. Yeah. Great. Okay, on this entire document, is there anything else we'd like to come back and see some changes on? Just to summarize, the ones that I heard were the definition of the SAO position, under 1A to include all of council, under councillor absences, defining when you should do that notification process. We can work on a statement around that. Under deputy mayor role, moving the event representation and speech preparation to that category. To the deputy mayor category. Did I miss anything that we've discussed? All right, yes. Ms. Phillips.
Would you like some clarity around number 6, the recent comments about paid events and events that you've RSVP'd through the EA? Like some wording around those?
Maybe we could, and maybe we went away from the paid event, but maybe we could just strengthen, you know, if your availability changes. Well, it really is after confirming attendance.
So it's okay?
No, I think that is, I think paid events is really important.
But that would, yeah, the example that was just given.
Oh, that's right.
Wouldn't
we would get
fall
paid to go
under
for
that.
bowling, and then you have to. All right, I retract my comment.
I think anything that's a representative event needs to be, like parades in the summer.
Yeah, certainly, if you've confirmed. Okay, we will need a motion to table this to the next meeting, I believe. Councillor Park, you made the original motion? Will we need a different councillor to make that motion to table?
I'll make that motion.
Councillor Rilling?
I have another question.
Sure, let's jump to that, yeah.
Yes. On number 3, communication with administration, in order to be consistent or with what we've said till now when communicating with administration, councillors are expected to, and councillors, don't we want to include that councillors need to include? Number 3. No, number 3, communication with administration. When communicating with administration, councillors are expected to direct both verbal and written requests to the CAO. Should it say include each, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you're right. My mistake.
Thank you, I'm glad we talked that out.
I was going to say, how do you CC a verbal request?
I would,
We would have to delete the word if we are thinking along those lines. It would, or all things would be just like email, basically. There'd always be a written record.
yeah,
So we'd cut the word verbal, really. So when we have these conversations and we suddenly think of something, we need to say, I'll follow up with an email when I'm home.
yes, yeah, and I think that's a reasonable way to do it. Counselor
Yeah.
Dakin?
I fully agree with that as well. And then on 5, and I'm glad you brought this to our attention, Councilor Reeling. It says, include all council members, the CAO, and senior administration officer in initial email requests. Can we say just all email requests or in all requests? Because in the initial, it just says initial, but then maybe
In
there's a
email
second line. It's like,
requests.
that one doesn't have to go to everyone.
Okay.
Can
That's
we
fair.
cancel out initial? Okay, thank you.
Good catches. Sorry, I'm just reading my own notes. Okay, we have a request to postpone this to the next meeting. Who made that motion? I thought it came from this way. No, but the motion to postpone. Counselor Dakin? Great. we
I'll make a
will-
motion to postpone.
to the, let's get that meeting date, just so we've got that correct. That would be to the May 12th regular
To the May
meeting of
12th
council.
Regular meeting of council.
Fantastic. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. I appreciate that we took the time to work through that one. We don't often deal with things that are so directly related to the logistics of our role, so we're looking forward to having that back. All right, next, council, we've reached an hour. Do we want to take a couple minutes to recess here? Yeah, let's do that. We will take, till 7:05. Thank you. Tax bylaw, second and potentially third reading. Ms. Devlin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Good evening, Council. This is for Council to consider granting second and third reading to bylaw 1921-2025, establishing the 2025 property tax rates. At the March 24th regular meeting of Council, Council was presented with several options to reduce the tax rate as a result of unexpected higher assessment values. The tax rate bylaw was prepared after Council's consideration with the core municipal tax rate unchanged from 2024, and both the recreation and transportation levy dollar amounts increasing for 2025. The recreation levy will go from the current $894,000 to $1 million annually, and the transportation levy will go from $700,000 to $900,000 annually. Administration respectfully recommends that Council give second and third reading to bylaw 1921-2025, establishing the 2025 property tax rates.
Excellent. We'll start with any questions from Council. Councillor Ostindi.
Just one quick question on the recreation. Does that include what we'll call the cultural pursuits as well? Or is it more typical, the athletic supports?
Based on, you know, I'm going to guess it's likely mostly just recreational capital projects. Cultural projects typically don't have a huge capital requirement to them, but those funds can be used likely interchangeably should there be something large that would fall under capital for a cultural project if Council chose.
Any additional questions? Would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Councillor Mearns.
I'll make a motion that Council give second reading to bylaw 1921-2025, establishing the 2025 property tax rate as outlined in AIR 1146.
Excellent. We'll open the floor up for any comments. Councillor Dakin.
I just want to say my same comments as before, and you know exactly how I stand. Nothing's changed on my end.
Good. Any Councillor Ostindi.
I don't mind, appreciate hearing some of them as I was absent. However, I had questions myself. The wage reserve that is considered in this motion to have 200,000 of the wage reserve, I'm not going to question its need, but is it correct that we didn't discuss that during our other deliberations? Because I do remember discussing the snow reserve, and we put a small amount in it of some 20,000. But I don't recall us having debate over the wage reserve. And then I have a follow-up question about it once I understand that.
Sure. Ms. Devlin.
Through the chair to Councillor Ostindi. For clarification, Councillor Ostindi, can I get a reference of where you're referring to?
In my absence, I had to go back and read 3 different meetings of notes, so I don't recall the exact page now, but I will flip through here and see if I see it. But it was noted, I think, in a previous meeting, the amount of 200,000 for a wage reserve, and I think it was in the first meeting that Council had regarding the possibility of having the different options.
Ms. Devlin and then Councillor Dakin.
Yes, thank you for the clarification. That was under the additional items added to the operating budget was outstanding wages from 2024 that were carried over, that were added in.
Okay. So that subsequent then, to make sure I understand it, so that was monies that just simply rolled over, or was that money that was going to be taxed? That's really what I'm getting at now.
So it was monies that I believe were going to be allocated from another reserve. However, given the additional funds, administration put that under wages and salaries for clarification in terms of where that would belong, along with those additional projects that were also added.
So it's a new addition to budget?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. So entering the debate phase then, My concern is that when I, agreed with us all together that we were going to raise the taxes, or the budget, correction, the budget by 3.48%. That was after all the debate and deliberations and the compromises we came up with. And so I was surprised to see that we suddenly were adding another 200,000, another 1% to our budget increase. And so that's where I'm thinking I see a hand up to clarify potentially.
Ms. Phillips.
I would suggest for more clarification on this one, we may want to go into closed, citing sorry, I don't have the section in front of me, personnel, 17? No.
We may not have to, since that triggered a thought.
Yeah.
Okay.
If anyone would like to go into closed session, we absolutely can do that.
I don't believe I
Seeing
need
not
to,
need.
just
Okay.
to be super clear from what was just said.
Got it.
So maybe to clarify on a bigger picture, are we in a situation where we are, aside from that 200 represents the 1%, I note that there's a number 1.8% in the notes, and that was a suggestion potentially to reduce our tax bill by. What would that other, literally I can split it in half, 0.9% of the budget increase be attributed to? And I know there's a few smaller items, but that I don't believe adds up to 200,000. So I'm just wondering, it's 1.8% is the number used in all the documents. 0.9 represents that 200,000. What would the other 0.9 represent? And that's to us or staff.
Through the chair to Councillor Oosthuizen, there was additional, I believe that 1.8% was close to $400,000 in additional funding that was going to be allocated to reserves. So a portion of it went to pay for the additional operating projects that were put into the budget. And the remainder was going to go into unrestricted reserves for council to determine what to do with at a later time. It'll coincide actually, just to give you additional information as well, since you weren't here, with the reserves policy that will be coming back to council this summer, so that council could look at how any of those unrestricted reserve funds may be allocated at that time.
Yeah, taking all this information in, I'm still thinking about the fact that we came to that compromise on that day, and I gave up my horticulturist, I gave up my arborist, I gave up my snow reserve, and you all know that I would argue always for reserves, but I'm still somewhat surprised that we are 0.9% of the increase is completely new to me and wasn't in the debate of the hours that we spent. So that, to me, it sounds like, did we do that because we suddenly realized the assessment value could support that kind of thing? Because my wallet doesn't change, the size of my wallet doesn't change when my assessment value goes up. So when I make this debate about how much are we increasing taxes and what did I compromise with my colleagues on, it was at a lower amount. And I understand, for instance, the study that needed to be done, I forget the exact amount that's put aside for that, some 40,000, I believe, don't quote me. And the wage reserve, I understand those things. But in all that debate we had, I'm not completely convinced about the other 0.9. So I would propose an amendment of 0.9 downwards, unless I heard more debate to make me more convinced. Though I am pro-reserves, but at the same time I know that when I look at the amount, using one of the examples, the increase was something like 9.2% in the one subdivision used as an example. So.
Excellent. I'm wondering if we could use this opportunity to do a quick highlight of where we are in that overall process. Councillor Stindy was away the last couple of meetings, so kind of the process it took to get to this point. Could we be given, I mean, I could give it, but I don't think that's ideal.
Sorry, yes, Your Worship. So just highlighting the previous conversations and how we got to this place? Sure.
Well, specifically, I guess the portion that I'm getting at is how we went back out to public, that process, where we came back, and then what was approved at the last meeting.
Sure. So following the meeting at the end of March, administration took council's direction. We went back and put out the option to the public to look at having a 0% tax increase and communicated that online to the public just to help get that information out in advance so there was no confusion, because that seemed to be the preferred direction that council had asked us to move forward with. We got very little comment back from the public. Again, recognizing that the taxes weren't increasing, but that there was some opportunity to take advantage of additional funds to go into reserves at that point. So following that, we brought back this tax rate bylaw last meeting, along with the operating budget. So council did pass the 2025 operating budget with all of the additional projects and wages and salaries included in there, and gave direction to allocate the additional revenue collected from the taxes that we would receive into unrestricted reserves at that time. So along with passing first reading to the bylaw, those decisions were also made.
And approved at that last meeting. So that's, I guess, trying to catch up on where we are in the process here.
Okay, so we are simply going to set the mill rate now. Okay. I'm glad to be totally in the loop now.
Do we have any additional comments? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor for second reading. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Would someone like to make the motion for third reading? Councillor Rilling.
I move that council give third reading to bylaw 1921-2025, establishing the 2025 property tax rates as outlined in AIR 1146.
Excellent. Any additional comments or questions? Councillor Ostindi.
My comments would have been different in the last meeting, but since it is setting the rate, that's why I'm voting in the way I am.
Any additional comments? All those in favor? And opposed? What do we need to do in that case?
Sorry, I was thinking about Councillor Stindy's comment instead of, and I raised my hand ceremoniously almost, but I didn't mean to. I'm like,
do we revote? Nope.
Or just count it as a thing. It's fine. Everybody knows how I stand, but
Just want to make sure with the recorded
it doesn't
votes.
matter. Decisions of council is decisions of council. I can't. It doesn't. It's not like a. It doesn't matter.
Okay, let's do that for clarity.
It doesn't matter. No, it doesn't matter. Yeah.
No?
No.
Okay.
I made a mistake.
We're comfortable then? Okay, that is carried unanimously then. Let's carry on to item number 7D, bylaw 1922, the fees and charges bylaw. Councillor Parsons, do you have anything to say?
Recuse myself for pecuniary interest.
Excellent. We will gather you in a few moments.
Go have some popcorn.
Excellent. Ms. Devlin?
Thank you, Your Worship. This is for council to consider granting second and third reading to bylaw 1922-2025, being an update to the fees and charges bylaw. Amendments to this bylaw are part of the town's regular review process, which occur in the spring and fall annually. Changes being proposed tonight include Schedule F, community services fees, changes to Schedule H, fire protection, and changes to Schedule K, mobile vending fees. You will notice the additions are highlighted in yellow and all deletions have been included in red. At this time, administration respectfully recommends that council approve second and third readings of the fees and charges bylaw 1922-2025 as presented in AIR 1147.
Thank you. We'll start with any questions. Seeing none, would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Payne.
I move that council approve second reading of the fees and charges bylaw 1922-2025 as outlined in AIR 1147.
Excellent. I'll open it up for comments or debate. Seeing none, Councillor Ostende.
There's one fee that's with regards to the lounge, what's formerly called the Viewpoint Lounge, a charge. I'm assuming that charge is per hour. $35 was the number I recall. Is that a per hour fee, or is it because it doesn't give any half day or full day fees?
Through the chair to Councillor Oostende, yes, that is correct. That is an hourly charge.
Okay, thank you.
I'll add my 2 cents on that one. I really think it's not a wise move for us to charge groups that want to come in and use that space, whether they're big buyers of it or not, to come have a meeting. I think of many groups that get together with their sporting organizations, and I completely understand this is a great operational recommendation. Want to get the most value out of it out there, but I also love that we've always had a space that user groups could get together and plan great events for our community. And I have noticed with the groups I've been a part of that has become an obstacle, because you're not necessarily a registered nonprofit, but who's getting the bill this time so that we can all get together, figuring out who that is when you're not a formal organization. But it's just not a hill I'll die on, but it's one I don't like. So Councillor Dakin, you had a comment.
I know that was my comment that I was thinking about making as well. I did talk to a few people at chatting with councils about specifically that. It turned them off. But I do understand also administrative side of it. It is, and as somebody that owns a restaurant, like it is a struggle. But I really do want to see it a spot, even if it's designated 4 tables one night a week where people could meet. But it gets to be such a big group because it's not just those 4 tables, you know? And I do see that point. But if it could be limited to like 4 tables or 5 tables and say, this many people can come, small section, don't use up our whole restaurant, please.
Yes, if I may. So I think the recommendation that administration would have to council is that we maybe look at something in regards to our multi-purpose rooms. The lounge is intended to be a space for people to come together. It's not intended as a meeting room space. Originally, when we first took over the lounge space, we did allow community groups to come in, use the tables, have their meetings, and unfortunately, it just got out of hand. So we would have a number of groups that would have the expectation that the lounge would be open, and let's say it's later on in the evening, there's no hockey or curling on, the lounge is going to close, and then those groups were coming in expecting to have a space, or we would have to keep staff on hand, keeping the lounge open for a group that isn't putting any money back into that facility. That's the difference. Whereas the multi-purpose rooms are set up by facility staff are in the facility and they are running the next door center. They're not there the entire time watching that group as they're sitting there. So there is a difference of use of the space as opposed to, let's say, a multi-purpose room.
I'd be happy with any other space that we can offer. I want to encourage more groups to do things so the town doesn't have to. I think when that comes to special events and sporting groups, the more we can encourage people to do that on their own time and come up with great community ideas, the less that we have to organize ourselves. And they bring so much more to it than a town organized event ever could. So, Councillor Oostende.
As a group, I'd probably just sneak in and sit down at a table. But this is a good argument for building a new library, because those are the kind of spaces that groups often use, and then many groups I've been involved with use the free space of the library, but it's very unstable in the sense of they can't guarantee it. Their programs are first, of course, and the group that I volunteer currently in, sometimes we're in the program room, sometimes we're in the cafe, and we make do.
Any additional comments? Seeing none, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor and opposed? That is carried unanimously. Would someone like to make a motion for third reading? Councillor Rilling.
I make a motion that council approve third reading of the fees and charges bylaw 1922/2025 as outlined in AIR 1147.
Excellent. Additional opportunity for debate? Seeing none, Councillor Rilling's motion is on the floor. All those in favor and opposed? That is carried unanimously. Please, if you can grab Councillor Parsons. All right, we'll come back for the 2024 audited financial statements. We did receive the presentation twice earlier, but happy to receive any opening comments.
Great, thank you, Worship. This is for council to consider approving the 2024 audited financial statements as presented by RSM Canada LLP. I won't go into any of the details since, as you pointed out, Your Worship, you've already had two presentations, but I will just make a note that once the statements are approved, the statements and the auditor's report will be submitted to the province and be made available on the town's website as we do every year, so they're publicly available. And at this time, administration respectfully recommends the council approve the 2024 audited financial statements as presented by RSM Canada LLP.
Excellent. We'll start with any questions from council. Councillor Rilling.
I just have one comment, and that is he was so positive on how our administration worked so well with him. And even though he realized that some things took a lot longer than he thought, but everybody was so gracious about that. And thank you. So please pass that on to whomever it applies to. Thank you.
Councillor Dakin had a question.
Yes, he was really impressed that our parks and roads was very under budget. And I guess my question for that one is it because we aren't finishing our projects in the year that we're trying to get done? Because he said a lot of other municipalities are up and overspending because of inflation and blah, blah, blah. And I said, he didn't know, so.
And for clarification, Councillor Dakin, is that page 5?
So it's $2 million are under on parks and $1 million is under on roads.
Is that the consolidated statement of operations under our operations?
Yes, thank you.
Yes, so to get you exact details on why we are so under, we would have to go back and look line by line because it's a series of cost centers that are integrated into those line items. But because this is operating, it's not actually our capital projects. So it won't be that our projects are coming in under budget necessarily. This is operating, and I can't tell you specifically without going back into Questica and having a really good look. I'm assuming there's a whole series of just finding ways to save money, first and foremost, between the 2 years, tightening up a little bit, but also that it's just a whole series of little things adding up. There could be a few other bigger ones in there, and I'm wondering if it had to do with amortization. That might be one of the items in there, but we can get details on those whichever line items council wanted to see. You said recreation, parks and culture, and I think you said roads, streets and lighting, and bring those back in detail in terms of exactly why. And if there's any other ones on there that jumped out, we're more than happy to bring that back and highlight what administration did to reflect those savings.
The only reason why my mind wanders there is there anything that we could do as council to help get these projects done? Is there something that, you know, is slowing that down on our end? If that is what it was, is that the job, you know, they're not getting done because whatever, on our end? That's the question. That's where it goes.
Yeah, and again, looking at this as operating numbers, I don't think it has anything to do with anything project-based. There may be small projects in their plans or studies or something smaller based, but none of our major capital projects would fall into this, these line items.
And I will note, the one interesting thing is they actually are in line with budget, so it's not that things were planned and not completed or that. It's just a difference from last year, that there's been a different budget allocated. So whether there was, I don't want to even insert some words there because I could be leading us down the wrong path, but yeah.
We will get the details and bring those back to council.
Be fantastic. And I think those by email would probably be appropriate. Excellent. Any additional questions? Oh, Councillor Martin, sorry.
To that point, it's a differential between the 2 years. Like, it's our budget lines up on both of those, so there's no differential there. It's just the difference between the two, so I don't need any information on that. It lines up with my budget, our budget.
I think it's how he said it to us that made me wonder.
But, yeah,
That's all.
if
I
you
know,
look-
I know it lines up with our budget, but why? Like, why is he so impressed? What's missing? That we're doing that other municipalities aren't.
But I don't think it's specific to that.
Okay.
Those two items.
Okay.
Yeah, because it'd be different if we had a budgeted at 9 million and we only spent 7, then I would like to know.
Right. Okay.
They line up.
I'm so curious.
I actually am also curious, only because I'm curious what we, again, capital, I expect large fluctuations from year to year, but I actually expect operational costs to be generally pretty consistent. So I'm just curious what we planned for differently. Not that we've done differently than what we planned, but yeah. Love to learn more when we're able to. And yeah, I don't know the answer. Councillor Martins.
We were actually over budget on recreation, right? Not under budget, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor Ostindi would like to make a motion.
Because it's nice and short. That council approved the 2024 audited financial statements as presented in RSM Canada LLP, as included in report AIR 1148.
Excellent. Any further debate, comment? We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor and opposed? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we'll move along to the Housing Accelerator Action Plan.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So I'd like to present for Council approval the revised Housing Accelerator Action Plan and the first annual half progress report. So during preparations for our first annual report submission to CMHC in mid-February, the town's half advisors informed administration that based on our success to date, there would be a one-time opportunity to submit additional initiatives in exchange for supplementary funding. Administration discussed with Council at the March 5th Committee of the Whole meeting the intent to submit 2 new initiatives, namely a reduction in parking standards for apartment developments and utilizing municipal land for housing development. On March 17th, CMHC advised administration that we were successful in our application for additional funding, recognizing our strong performance to date. In fact, the town was named one of 27 top-performing municipalities across Canada, and as a result secured an additional $540,000 in half funding in exchange for permitting an additional 20 units, namely which would be apartment units. This brings the total units to be permitted to 575 and total half funding of just over $6 million. Administration had initially submitted both initiatives with significantly more housing units to be permitted. However, due to limited funding, successful municipalities were granted up to 10% of their original half funding. So in the town's case, this equated to an additional $540,000. CMHC recognized the amount of funding offered was much lower than what we had applied for and gave the town the option to implement just one of the two initiatives. Administration selected the reduced parking standards as the most effective means of achieving the additional units. The new initiative proposes to reduce the minimum parking requirements for new apartment developments. This will have the effect of lowering development costs for these projects and make more efficient use of available land. In determining the scope of the changes, administration will review a number of recent apartment development applications that were granted relaxations to parking and also look at best practices in other comparable municipalities. These changes will be brought to council as a land use bylaw amendment in late spring, early summer, and will require a public hearing process. This initiative supports the development of additional housing units that provide smaller, more affordable options for the increasing number of smaller household sizes in our community. The estimated budget to implement this initiative is $10,000 and includes staff time needed to prepare the land use bylaw amendments. The Housing Accelerator Action Plan is provided as Attachment 1 and has been updated with the new initiative. So the half funding that was awarded to the town is being distributed in 4 equal annual installments, with the first installment having been received in February 2024. As part of the Housing Accelerator Fund contribution agreement, prior to receiving each subsequent installment, the town must submit an annual report that details the number and type of building permits issued for housing, progress made on our housing targets, and how half funds have been spent in the reporting period. A report regarding the progress made by the town on our action plan is provided as Attachment 2. The reporting period is from January 30th, 2024 to January 29th, 2025, and summarizes each initiative, its completion status, how half dollars have been spent to date, and the number and type of units with approved building permits. As per the half agreement, these progress reports are to be made publicly available and will be posted on the Engage page following Council's approval. Notably, as of January 29th, 2025, the town has achieved 65% of our target in just year 1 of the 3-year program, and we continue to see strong permit numbers this year. To date, the town has received $2.9 million of the half funds, and the remaining installments of $1,551,357 will be received in 2026 and 2027, with the payment in 2027 contingent on meeting our half targets. Administration recommends Council approve the revised Housing Accelerator Action Plan and the first annual progress report as presented. The resolution is before you in your agenda package, and this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Excellent. We'll start with questions. Oh, Councillor Dakin. Sorry.
That's okay.
Out of the vision.
I know.
It took me a while to get there.
Proofread. That's okay. Yeah, the program funding under the Initiative 5 Secondary Suite Loan Program, no applications have been made. So nobody's applied yet for that? I know it says that right there, but I just want to hear it out loud because it's so disappointing.
Through the chair to Councillor Dakin, yeah, that is correct.
And do you think that do you think that's because of, why do you think that is? Have we advertised enough? Have we?
Yes, so we've promoted the program on our Engage site, on the Invest website. We've also put out social media posts regarding the program. So it's difficult to say why there hasn't been any uptake in the program.
That's fair. And then I just think that there's something, because when I talk to people about it, they're like, I had no idea. And that's the usual response that I'm getting when I'm talking about it, but it is such a good program. So if we don't use it, are we just going to use it back up into cover administrative costs for developing the programs?
So the funds that aren't utilized for any of our initiatives would then go into that remaining pool of money that we can then dedicate to other housing-related type initiatives.
And at what point would we do that for this program? How much time would have to go by? What's the dead day?
So I will defer to Ms. Devlin regarding the timeframes for those decisions to be made. Sure, through the chair to Councillor Dakin. At some point, probably towards the end of this year, administration will review our programs, money spent to date, and bring back some options for council. We'll have to make some decisions on how council would like to spend some of the dollars that we know for sure will be extra, and then give some direction on whether or not there's any changes to any of the existing programs. We wouldn't recommend changing anything at this time unless there is something that triggers a need for that, which could include election results this evening that we'll be watching to see if there's any changes that come from that. So assuming that, you know, our half dollars continue as per what has been dedicated to us, we would continue with our programs, continue marketing them, and implementing them unless there's something else direction council gives.
Thank you. Councillor Cindy.
First, one comment for portfolio housing that really wasn't on our front burner. It's amazing how successful and active this file has been, and so kudos to our staff involved in this. And then on the second comment, just about affordable units, it would be awesome if people started picking up on that program. However, I know that there's some very large projects that could be built by community groups that would fall completely in this category. Mm-hmm. And that critical piece that you mentioned about, you know, in the near future when we start reevaluating what's possible, there are several groups that would that are chomping at the bit. In fact, I was even in a conversation this afternoon with one of those groups and talking about affordable housing. And so there is a great desire to change that number, but they're not in that individual unit market. They are in the, let's create some community housing, mixed housing. So that'll be an exciting chapter in the next couple of years.
Two questions. One is all along the same lines, but we can't have a Housing Accelerator Fund conversation without me talking about the Housing Summit. I notice we have a hold in our calendar. It's just over a month away, and we haven't firmed that up, and we haven't started telling people. And maybe it's part comment and part question. Question is, when are we going to start to tell people? And comment is, this isn't an event that we can let user groups know 2 weeks before. I really think they need at least a month of lead time to ensure that we have the right people who attend. So do we have any updates on when we hope to solidify those plans?
So to the mayor, so we have been working through some logistics in terms of the timing of the meeting. I know that there is grad towards the end of May that we're trying to work around with, and also some availability at the Nexor Center and venue availability. So we are working through some of those, I guess, planning elements right now. So we're hoping to do it sooner than later. So.
And I just would really like to lean into, if we can't give a month notice, we can't do this. And I would really hate to see that be rescheduled. So as soon as we can. My other question was in regards to a comment. You talked about the small household size trends that you're starting to see. Is that something that we saw through the last census, or where is that information coming from? Because my question is, are our household sizes actually decreasing in this community, or are we just cramming more people into less space because of we're looking for more affordable options, unfortunately?
Yeah, to the mayor. So this information comes from the census data, which has also been highlighted in the housing needs assessment. So we do have the draft currently. So there is a clear indication over the last 3 census that each census year that those numbers of single person or 2-person households are continuously increasing.
Interesting. Thank you. Any additional questions? Would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Parsons.
It's short as well. That council approves the revised Housing Accelerator Action Plan and first annual progress report as presented in AIR 1145.
Excellent. Any additional debate, council? All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we'll discuss bylaw 1920, 2025, land use bylaw amendments in the R2 district. Mr. Symington, welcome.
Thank you, Your Worship. So this is for council to consider grounding second and third reading to bylaw 1920, 25 to amend the land use bylaw to allow commercial schools a discretionary use within the medium density residential district on lot 11, block 8, plan 2420906. There has been an application received for this site-specific amendment to allow the commercial school. The property received a development permit in 2023 for the operation of a daycare facility, and the applicant now wishes to provide music lessons in addition to the existing daycare facility. The property is currently being used for a daycare facility now in its entirety. So the land use bylaw defines a commercial school to mean a facility that provides education or training to students of all ages in general education, recreation, life skills, or business skills. It includes dance schools, athletic training facilities, martial arts schools, business schools, secretary schools, and cosmetology and hairdressing schools, but does not include industrial training facility schools. The purpose of the medium density residential district is to provide an area for a variety of dwelling types and other uses compatible within a residential district. Discretionary uses listed currently within the district that could be considered similar to a commercial school include the daycare facility already operating, home occupations Class B and Class C. Although they may be smaller in scale, they do allow for daily on-site business activities contained within the principal building or accessory building, and may also include customers and non-resident employees. The bylaw amendment would only apply to this property, and as a discretionary use will still allow the Development Authority staff or the Municipal Planning Commission to review and use their discretion when considering any development application for a commercial school. Any application would also have to meet the applicable requirements in the land use bylaw, which includes parking and landscaping requirements. As a discretionary use, the Development Authority also has the ability to add any conditions it deems appropriate to ensure compatibility with the existing neighborhood. So the redesignation was referred to adjacent landowners, and at the time of writing of this report, no comments have been received. So administration is respectfully recommending that council grant second and third reading to bylaw 1920, 2025.
Excellent. Council, we'll start with any questions. Would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Payne.
I move that council grants second reading to bylaw 1920-2025, being a bylaw to amend the town's land use bylaw to add commercial school as a discretionary use within the medium density residential district. Lot 11, block 8, plan 2420906, as requested in AIR 1150.
Excellent. We'll open it up for any comments or discussion. I'll comment, I think this makes absolute sense in this location. And really is preferable to the existing location. It makes sense. It's less traffic than what's there in the daytime, so I have no objections. Any additional comment? All right, we have a motion on the floor with Councillor Payne. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. Is anyone interested in putting forward third reading? Councillor Mearns.
I make a motion that council grants third reading to bylaw 1920-2025, being a bylaw to amend the town's land use bylaw to add commercial school as a discretionary use within the medium-density residential district R2 on Lot 11, Block 8, Plan 2420906, as requested in AIR 1150.
Excellent. One last opportunity for any debate. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. Next, we'll move along to the request for a refund of a land use bylaw amendment application.
Thank you again, Your Worship. So this is for council to consider granting a refund for a land use bylaw amendment application fee in the amount of $1,000 as requested by the applicant. There is a $1,000 application fee for minor amendments when you are looking at amending the land use bylaw. And for text amendments, the applicant applied for the text amendment to include a commercial school as a discretionary use in their property, and they are now requesting that the fee be waived. They did attach their reasons they stated their reasons in the attached letter, basically indicating that they had spent over $3,000 in development application fees in the last 3 years to try to operate a business that provides both music lessons and daycare facilities in one building. Administration does have concerns waiving the application fee for a landowner requested land use bylaw amendment. These fees are in place to assist the town recovering expenses associated in processing these applications, including staff time, public hearing, advertising in the newspaper, and mailing notices to the adjacent landowners. The town also receives numerous requests by landowners for land use amendments, and this could set a precedent if the fee was to be waived based on individuals' requests. Other businesses have also had to apply for land use bylaw amendments in the past, and these are always at the applicant's cost. As this amendment by itself is very site-specific, it only benefits this parcel as the proposed addition for the commercial school is specific to the address of that lot only. So staff recommendation is to refuse waiving the fee based on the following reasons. The land use bylaw amendment applied for only benefits the applicant's parcel, and the fees are in place to assist the town in recovering costs associated with processing these applications.
Excellent. Do we have any questions to start off with? Would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Ooh, that was almost a draw, but Councillor Ostindi got it.
That council approve the request to waive the land use bylaw application fee and direct administration to provide a refund in the amount of $1,000 to the applicant as per report AIR 1151.
Excellent. We'll open it up for any comment or debate. Councillor Mearns.
Yeah, just looking at the fees and what they're for, I don't see any duplication for anyone else doing business. They would have had to gone through the same procedures and understanding, you know, of our fees and development. And I don't think they're onerous. I think it supports the time and everything that administration does and puts into it. So it's something I can support to keep the fees in place.
Councillor Payne.
As much as I appreciate the business and what they do for the community, this is the kind of slippery slope we don't want to be on. Going back and doing things like this it doesn't make sense. It's just going to cost us significantly more in the future.
Councillor Ostindi.
I was going to invoke the slippery slope argument as well, and that it is a reasonable cost for the services provided.
I'll jump in. I'm okay with it. And the reason being, under the meaning of public and quasi-public use, it already lists instruction and recreation or other community activity as a permitted use. They just fell into this weird area where it's a matter of wording when the two definitions really overlap. So to me, it felt like we failed them a little bit on that overlapping definition, and that's why they had to go through this process, not because they're asking for a different type of use, because they are offering instruction and recreation or other community activity, and that's already included in the current land use. We've just, we've got some duplicate wording, which makes this confusing, and they're not really looking to change the use. In my opinion, it pretty close to already fits in the current. They're just trying to bring themselves into compliance, but I don't see a need to add a cost on to do something that is already really allowed. And I know it's not on a technicality, but it really does say that. And a layperson looking at this, to me, it looks like, well, that's already allowed. So, any additional comment or debate? Councillor Dakin, or Parsons, Dakin?
Very similar, because I've been involved in this and right from the start. And I understand the business and whatnot, and the value it brings. This is such a one-off that I don't think we would ever have this slippery slope again. So, but that being said, so I'd support the refund as well, but only because it's one of those things. It's not going to happen again, and they were a little confused on that part.
Councillor Dakin.
I'm torn because I've paid so many fees that I understand the process, but I also appreciate, and I just would like a point of clarity on this, Calvin, if you don't mind. When something doesn't get approved, they do not get a refund, correct?
Through the chair, that's correct.
Okay. And then follow-up question, that would be the $1,000 building permit fees to renovate the preschool property. That's not this $1,000 that we're talking about reimbursing, right? This is another $1,000 on top of all of this that's sitting in the kitty right now.
Through the chair, that's correct. That, I believe, was through their development permit when they received approval for the daycare facility. So because they did renovations, they'd have to pay for a building permit. And of course, those fees are set through Superior Safety Codes as well as the Safety Association.
Okay. And then I think further to that, I think that the gray area makes me want to say that we were close enough there in the definition, but if you don't understand and you don't see the definition, it falls under the definition. Like, I couldn't just put my distillery there. It had to be exactly blah, right? I'm torn. I'm torn.
30 seconds until we vote. Councillor Payne.
I think if we start getting into critical analysis of our bylaws, we're going to start creating opportunity for people to come in and say, yeah, we want to do this differently. So in as much as you say, I don't see this being a one-off, I don't see a slippery slope here, it's not a slippery slope until it becomes one, until it becomes somebody else wanting to critically analyze a bylaw. And at that point, you have to start thinking, did we write this perfectly? And no, we didn't. There's not a single bylaw that's written perfectly. If we do this, and I'd love to find another way to help the community, to help this individual, to help this school. But if we do this, it's simply putting us in a situation where we're opening ourselves up to interpretation of every bylaw, of every policy, of every directive. And I just think that it's a scary place to find ourselves. I think in this situation here, we can't allow the benefit and the good that it does to the community to change the way the directive, the policy, the procedure goes. It can't be different because of this individual. It has to be applied evenly to everyone. Otherwise, we get into trouble.
Councillor Dakin.
Okay, I would love if somebody challenged every bylaw and actually participated in that way. I would absolutely love that, and for that, I want to give her money back because she's been fighting hard, and she did. She came and she went through it all, and she has paid all the things, and she has had something not approved and paid for it. I want to say no to Jazz, but I'm okay if somebody wants to fight a fight, and I think she did a really good job, and Calvin did a fantastic job as well. but it's too gray. It was too gray for me. So I think, yeah, she can have it back.
I love a good up in the air debate, council. We don't have this that often, but it's great. We don't all have to vote the same way. Is there any other comment or debate that we'd like to have? Seeing none, we've got the question on the floor is to approve the request to waive the fee. All those in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Thank you. Next, we'll move to the request contract award for design services for 50th Street and Memorial Trail intersection upgrade.
Good evening, Your Worship and Council. The purpose of this report is to request Council approval to award the design services contract RFP CP 2301-01 for the intersection upgrade, which is a roundabout at 50th Street and Memorial Trail. Back in 2022, the Transportation Master Plan and the Memorial Trail Functional Planning Study were developed for the town, for the network and future transportation planning needs. A number of roundabouts have been proposed along Memorial Trail, along from west boundary all the way to Highway 20. Roundabout is a preferred option for intersection upgrade, as it's more flexible than traffic signals, as it can be upgraded from 1 lane to 2 lanes in the future, as well as be able to be operational when there's a power outage. And it's also quite environmentally sustainable. 50th Street and Memorial Trail are both arterial roads that are expected to be twinned in the future from 2 lanes to 4 lanes when the increased volumes are anticipated. As well as, I guess, its proximity to Highway 11 and Highway 781, as well as being close to development growth areas such as Memorial Trail and 50th Street. On March 6, 2025, a request for proposals was for design services for this intersection was posted on APC and posted on the town's procurement website. It was advertised twice on March 6th and 13th in the Sylvan Lake News, and prospective bidders were required to download the package from bids and tenders. On April 3rd, 5 submissions were received from Aptus, SEMA, ISL, McElhaney, and Stantec. All 5 submissions were reviewed by administration using evaluation criteria that included corporate experience, which counted for 10%, project methodology, 25%, project team, 25%, pricing, 30%, and references were at 10%, for a total of 100%. All 5 firms are well known to the town of Sylvan Lake, and all are experienced with designing roundabouts and transportation-related projects. All proponents were required to provide pricing for the roundabout detailed design, as well as providing a preliminary design from Memorial Trail to Pelican Place of 50th Street. And pricing from the 5 submissions varied from just over $185,000 to just under $345,000, excluding GST. Administration reviewed all 5 submissions under the evaluation criteria, and ISL Engineering of Calgary scored the highest of the 5, and therefore recommends that ISL be awarded this contract. It's also noted that ISL is the firm that did the 2022 Transportation Master Plan, as well as the 2022 Memorial Trail Functional Planning Study. With the added biophysical impact assessment option, priced at $8,128, ISL had the lowest price at just over $193,000, excluding GST. The key deliverable for this project is to provide a shovel-ready project ready for tendering and we'll be waiting for any grant funding that may be available for this project. Currently, there is funding of $220,000 under CP 2301, which can cover the fees and disbursements under this project. This project aligns with developing sustainable infrastructure that supports the needs of current and future Sylvan Lakers, and to build high-quality community facilities that enrich the lives of its residents and attract visitors to the community. Under strategic priorities, the plan for and develop high-quality, long-lasting infrastructure and facilities that meet the needs of the residents and supports future growth. Administration will notify all proponents of the successful proponent, and also will be posting on APC and the town's procurement website. Advance notices will be posted to the town's website under Engage, as well as providing notices on the website for residents, businesses, and visitors to the community. An open house is proposed in before the end of September 2025 as part of the engagement process. The town's project page will be updated regularly on the progress of this project. Options for the town or for council may direct administration to award the design services contract request as recommended, or council may defer the decision and request additional information. And the third option, council may deny the services contract award request. Administration respectfully recommends that council direct administration to award the design services contract for the intersection upgrade of 50th Street and Memorial Trail, along with the preliminary design of 50th Street from Memorial Trail to Pelican Place to ISL Engineering of Calgary in the amount not to exceed $200,000, excluding GST.
Excellent, thank you. We'll start with any questions from council. Councillor Ostindi.
And just one question about the assessment option that ISL can add to their study. Biophysical impact assessment, is that some kind of soil testing, or is that impact of the construction on the environment around it? I'm just curious on that.
Back in 2017, there was a natural areas management plan that was developed by, I think it was RC Bio of Sylvan Lake for basic to apply projects throughout the town. And one of the things they kind of looked at was wildlife corridors and that sort of stuff. So that's primarily the main concern that was identified back in 2017 was maintaining wildlife corridors, as well as there's also close proximity to wetlands as well.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Any additional questions? Would someone like to make a motion? Councillor Dakin.
I move that council directs administration to award the design services contract for the intersection upgrade at 50th Street and Memorial Trail, along with the preliminary design of 50th Street from Memorial Trail to Pelican Place to ISL Engineering and Land Services of Calgary in an amount not to exceed $200,000, excluding GST, as indicated in AIR 1139.
Excellent, thank you. Any debate or discussion, council? Council Parsons.
Not a debate or a question, well, a question. When are we going to build it?
Right now, I guess the project, we're hoping to have tender-ready drawings by end of January, if everything follows the schedule that's proposed.
2026?
Pardon me?
In which year?
2026.
Okay, thank you. Any additional comments or debate, council? We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. Council, we have gone through another hour. Would anyone like another? Yes, let's take another 7-minute recess and then we will complete our agenda. Thanks. back to order. We will come back in with the appointment of public members to the Tourism Development Committee. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Hansen, council members. The purpose of my report this evening is to seek the appointment of public members to the Tourism Development Committee. Administration has received 2 applications for positions on the committee. The applications were reviewed at a committee meeting, and the committee is in full support of bringing these applications forward for the following positions. The first is for Susan Cozy, a tourism partner voting member on a 2-year term. She would be representing the Sylvan Lake Sailing Club. And the second is for Muriel Pritchard, also a tourism partner voting member on a 2-year term, and she would be representing Son of a Beach. Currently, the committee has enough openings to support the applications, and therefore, administration respectfully proposes the following motion: that council appoints Susan Cozy and Muriel Pritchard as tourism partner voting members to the Tourism Development Committee for a term to expire October 2027. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, do we have any questions? Would someone like to make a motion? Councilor Rilling.
I make a motion that council appoints Susan Cozy and Muriel Pritchard as tourism partner voting members to the Tourism Development Committee for a term to expire October 2027.
Excellent. Do we have any debate, council? Motion on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Thank you. Next, we've got the procedural bylaw amendment, 1923-2025. Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I am here to present the procedure bylaw amendment 1923-2025 for second and third reading. The purpose of the report is to amend and replace section 31 with wording more specific to council meetings being recorded, to amend section 32 by adding the following provisions explaining the process to which we will follow in the event of technical difficulties preventing broadcast, and to repeal and replace section 33 regarding the protocol of public hearings in accordance with the legislative recommendations of Bill 20. Administration respectfully recommends that council approve second and third reading of amending bylaw 1923-2025, being an amendment to procedure bylaw 1886-2023 pursuant to AIR 1010. This concludes my presentation. I am open to any questions or comments regarding these amendments.
Wonderful. Start with any questions. Councilor Riley.
This is the one that I had a question
I was
about.
an entire agenda too early when I tried to call her out at the beginning.
That's why I looked like a deer in the headlights. Page 167, under discussion, number 1. Regular council meetings, committee of the whole, council meetings, and special meetings of council. Can we make a change to remove the special meetings of council for, and I don't know where would we make that change in the bylaw, but just because rarely do we have it out here, we always have to go in closed closed session. And so, but we have to bring staff, like there's staff that have to be here and they have to sit here and wait until we're done to come back out. So is there any place for us to remove that?
Yes, we can remove that for sure.
I'm hearing Councillor Oostende direct us to page 193. Section 31. So the word special meetings could potentially just be removed. Great. We will, yes.
I just wanted to comment that, so we could remove special meetings entirely, and it sounds like majority are of the time we are enclosed, or the other option would be to say any special meetings where the entire agenda is enclosed, they wouldn't be included. So that if something out of the ordinary came up, but that should be public, you could still keep it in there, so it's up to council on which one you prefer.
Before we debate into that, we know that the question is on the table and we know where it is. Let's loop back to that as soon as we have a motion on the floor. Is there any other questions? Seeing none, would someone like to put a motion on the floor? Yeah. Councillor Stindy? Was that, oh, no, Councillor Mearns. Sorry. You're really at a disadvantage if you were on this side of me always. I am so sorry. Councillor Mearns.
Just a question, are we separating these two motions out? It's written as one, but my suggestion is to have them as two, correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Make a motion the council approves second reading to amend bylaw 1923-2025, being an amendment to procedure bylaw 1886-2023 pursuant to AIR 1010.
Excellent. Okay, let's discuss that item. What are our thoughts around either removing or making edits to having the special meetings included? Councillor Payne, we'll just maybe go around.
I can't remember a special council meeting where it wasn't closed. That's 12 years of those. So I just don't see a point in it being in there at all. I think if there are motions to be made at the end of a closed session, that's the only reason that I could see it remaining, but some of those closed session special council meetings are hours long. So, yeah, I just don't see the point in that.
Councillor Oostende, what's your comfort level?
Leaning on that tradition or practice, I would agree with removing special meetings. I was trying to, in my own mind, picture when we would want to record it. Or to have a wording, sorry. Leaning to the argument just made by Councillor Payne that the practice has been, we don't seem to have any special council meeting that needs to be recorded other than for one motion at the very end after hours of meeting. I support that notion. I'm just trying to think of an occasion where you would need it, or can we have a simple wording where it's able to be recorded? And that's the only leanings I would go to.
I'll miss this fun. I raised my hand and Mr. McIntyre acknowledged me. Like, yes, you're okay to speak. I had a thought on that. What about changing the wording to regular council meetings, committee of the whole meetings, or other meetings at the discretion of CAO or council? So that locks us into regular council meetings and committee of the whole. And if there is a special meeting that that we might want that, anyone could request that. We could discuss and put it online. I could see there might be a case. I don't know what it is. Most of our special meetings are called really due to a personnel or an emerging legal issue. Everything else we try and plan. So I can't see that happening very often, but then we have the option if it's something that we want to. We always have the official record of the meeting being our meeting minutes, but gives us some discretion there, but not forcing our hand. I think of a couple of the special meetings we had to call around the hiring of our new CAO, and how that meant we had to bring multiple staff, someone to do minutes, someone to run the YouTube in, just for us to sit in camera to wait for us to leave. And it certainly, I can say, thinking of some of the things in the back end of the office, caused a bit more trouble because we all agreed on the time, but we didn't necessarily always loop in the rest of admin because of some of the topics that we were discussing, and that made it hard that when we sprung it on them, oh, by the way, in 3 hours we're having a special meeting because we need to go through this process to officially hire our CAO, but we haven't told anyone, so now we have to engage staff. That it was difficult. So that's my suggestion. I guess I wonder if we could leave that, or other meetings at the discretion of the CAO or council.
My turn. I like that.
Councillor Parsons, sorry. Councillor Dakin.
I think the spirit of why we recorded it was because we I put forward the motion to count our votes. And then, it makes sense to have the context of to why we count our votes. So I almost prefer it if somebody's counting the votes, it's nice to have that context of out recording. So how to get around that is just to say any meeting that's not held in camera.
The challenge is,
Yeah.
we almost, any of those meetings, we would come out and have to vote. So that would mean we would still have to have someone sit and wait for each one of those.
I'm okay because our votes are still counted, but just for I was just saying out loud for everyone else, just the spirit of it was to give context to any
Yes.
vote that would be documented, because then they would have reference, a secondary reference, that's all. I'm okay with what you said.
Yeah, just, Councillor Rilling.
Yeah, the new wording's fine, like as, left to the discretion of. I think that's good. It gives us the option, but it doesn't put us in this box that we have to use it all the time. And that was my concern, is that there needs to be another way. And this, to me, gives us that. Probably never use it, but at least it's there in case it's needed.
Councillor Burns. I propose the wording after Councillor Ostindi, so Councillor Payne and Ostindi, do you have any concerns around that new wording? Okay, I have another potential suggestion. It's on page 175, item number 28. It says, any member of council may participate in a meeting by attending in person, by telephone, or video conference. I just wonder if we should add if pre-approved by council. That is our practice, that we have to submit the pre-approval sheet. And we know the spirit of that is that so someone can't be a councillor and live 6 months in Mexico. Do we want to add that in here, or I guess where else is it covered? Councillor Payne.
I think the difficulty in that is if you have somebody who is an emergent away, but can still attend, that's not, by stipulating pre-approval, you're disqualifying the individual from that situation.
Could we say approved, get rid of the pre?
By approval of council. Yeah, then you can approve during the meeting, right then. Yeah.
That's more consistent with our practice. I'll ask administration, do you have any concerns? Because I didn't bring that up ahead of time, so. No. Mr. McIntyre, that is a thinking face. Is that one of concern?
Thank you, Mayor. No, I'm just trying to think about council's process in which they grant approval for councillors being absent, and whether or not there is a documented process there or a criteria to say, yes, we will, or no, we won't.
It is in our procedural bylaw. It just didn't reflect that when I think of it being consistent to this document. Councillor Dakin?
Yeah, I just remember there being times where we approve people after the fact, too. We have.
So removing the word pre, that if approved by council.
At any point.
Makes sense.
Even after? Because we just said in the meeting, and I just want to make sure it can be after.
More frequently than not, the approval comes well after the absence. So.
Just want to make sure that's still a thing.
Yeah. And perhaps a best practice in that case, though, is that we start that meeting with just an ask of council. We have Councillor Payne attending virtually. We'll submit the formal request after this, but is there any objection to that? And because the meeting is recorded, then that would be on record to just ensure we've acknowledged that to start the meeting. And great. Councillor Ostindi.
It's not, I don't believe it's a technicality to be wrong, what I'm going to point out, but it would clarify for those reading the statement where video coverage ceases to work and we continue the meeting on it. It reads here, shall resume without video coverage, and the meeting minutes will serve as the official record of the meeting. It would be more clear and correct to say, and the meeting minutes will continue to serve as the official record of the meeting, because it's the paper, written records that are our official record of the meeting. We can't go to the video like in NHL hockey games and review them. It is actually the paper record that we approve. So we could amend it by adding those two words, continue to serve, or we could just say, shall resume without video coverage, period.
I'll ask administration, do you have a preference between those two bits of wording?
I think either's fine. I mean, you're correct, the meeting minutes are always the official record, so clarifying that, it does sound a little confusing there, so, but I think either way, how you worded it there will continue to serve as the official record, makes it clear that they always were and will continue to be, so I think I'm fine with that.
Continue to, are we okay with that?
Jolene? Or, sorry, Karen?
Any additional items? We have second reading on the floor, but because we still have to do third reading, I think we could carry forward with second reading and then edit the wording motion on third reading to say as amended, I believe. Then we don't have to mess with amendments within this motion. Great. We have a last call. Any additional debate or comment? We have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. Would someone like to make a motion for third reading?
With the words as amendment.
Okay.
I could, I think.
I would love to make a
It's too
motion.
far.
I'll move that council approve third reading to the amending bylaw 1923-2025, being an amendment to the procedural bylaw 1886-2023 with amendments. Is that clear enough? Pursuant to AIR 1010. Thank you. I appreciate that prompt. Any additional comments or debate? All those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Next, we'll move along to and thank you for that report. Move along to correspondence and information items. We've got a couple before us. Do we have any questions on those? Council, I have a bit of an out-of-turn comment to bring up here. It was just brought to my attention tonight that we have a very full committee of the whole meeting on May 7th, and I'd like to propose that we have an earlier start time for that meeting, just to allow us to leave before midnight. So wondering if we could take a moment to peek at schedules and see if perhaps a 4:30 or a 5 o'clock start would be something that would be doable for us. And I lean towards 4:30 because we will need to eat at some point, and then that allows us, we're still getting an extra hour in the meeting, but say from 5:30 till 6, we could grab something to eat, as opposed to if we start at 5, it's too early to eat dinner at 4 before we come, we'll still have to take that dinner break and we're not really getting a whole lot of extra time. How does everyone feel about that start time? Is that doable? Okay, with that, I'd like to make a motion here. I know that's out of our notice of motion process, but we don't have time to do that. And I think this is a pretty minor item. So I'd like to make a motion to move the start time of our May 7th committee of the whole meeting to 4:30 p.m. Any comments on that? Great, all those in favor? And opposed? That is carried unanimously, and we'll have our calendar updated to reflect that tomorrow. Okay, next up is the CAO report. Ms. Phillips.
So I'm going to look to you for feedback on this one. We've put the written report in the agenda, so rather than trying to get everything done so I don't miss something from one of the departments, I'm just going to highlight a couple things, and if you don't like that process, let me know, but everything's in front of you in the report. So Wellness and Community Connections, the Youth Sparks Award is this Friday evening, so that's by invitation only, as well as several other activities that are planned, including, we're really excited about puppy cuddles. This is a staff initiative for wellness. So I'm interested to see how many people go home with puppies at the end of this. Parks and Protective Services, we had our seasonal staff starting today, so there was an orientation today. And the spray park is planned to open this weekend as well, as long as the weather's permitting, which right now it looks like this weekend's quite warm. So there is Environmental Services is attending the École Mother Teresa Career Fair on April 30th. And in operations, where they're starting to work on crosswalks and center lines as the weather permits. Engineering, the much awaited and commented on earlier for that they're working on the streetlights. So the the anticipated start is to be on Wednesday, as long as all goes well with coordination with CN. So we should see them up and running. And our infrastructure is not here, but there was the comment that we've often started with lights flashing as a heads up, and we may not be able to do that because of the coordination with CN. So they might just be on. So we'll get some good communications out for that. Red Dress Day, May 5th, there's National Awareness of Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls and Two-Spirit People is coming up, and as well as the Glam and Gather Market at the Seniors Center, dedicated to celebrating incredible women in our lives. So there's some high-end highlights, but the report is also there for if you have any questions or comments you'd like to add.
I do have a question. Will there also be something for Moosehide Day this year? And if so, could that information be emailed around? I'm seeing a head nod. Would you like to give us an update here? Do you know? If not, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I just saw the head nodding and thought that meant maybe.
Mayor Hanson, I don't have all the information in front of me, but yes, there is the Moosehide campaign that will be underway. So again, we'll be distributing the Moosehide campaign pins along with the information that goes along with it. And then information will also be on the website. I can send council an email with the rest of the information if you like.
That'd be great. Thank you. Any additional questions on the CEO report? Councillor Rilling.
On page 222, regarding my request about the crosswalk, Peterson Way and Parson Drive, there does not appear to be any circumstance that would warrant a marked crosswalk at this location, and therefore no action is planned. Now, I guess, what does it take? Like, to me, because the sidewalk ends, there is no place else for them to go but across the street. I know it's not near a school or a playground, but the kids are all walking to school. So I guess I don't know how this was. I mean, I can see it. I mean, it's one of the ways that we do things, and yet I really wonder I just wouldn't want something to happen. Yeah. I watch them every day out my window. So I don't even know who to ask. Amjad is not here.
We can get, oh, yes.
So are you asking if there's a way to make it happen, like that council can?
Well, I don't know, like, is there, because to me it's a safety issue, and there's a lot of kids who use that corner, and we've had a lot of young families move into our subdivision there, and so, like, they literally walk across Parson, which is a kind of a main drive down to the school. So it's a busy road, and but there is no cross, like, I'm not asking for lights, I'm not asking for anything, just painting on the road. That's it. Just to signify.
So this is, and unfortunately, our Director of Infrastructure has left for the evening, but I mean, this is based on the information, it's not indicated for a crosswalk, but that being said,
that's what I'm asking.
I'd like to follow up with the department, but council should be able to make a motion still. Like if the room wanted, if councillors wanted the sidewalk in that spot, even though it's not indicated,
right?
That I believe that motion could still come from you. I don't see a reason. Thank you. My directors are agreeing with me that you, as a council, couldn't say.
So I could make a notice of motion.
Yes.
Next time.
Yeah.
Or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Could we get some, because when I actually read this, it's not about a crosswalk at all. It talks about the curb, so I wonder if it's... Oh.
Next one down.
Oh, thank you.
I had two.
I was reading the wrong one too.
Very good, then, yeah.
So there's no reason you couldn't make a notice of motion, and then if council supported that, then the crosswalk would still go in.
Okay.
Yeah. Great.
Okay.
I'll allow you to work with Ms. Reynolds on that.
Okay. Perfect. Thank you.
Any additional items on the CAO report? Councillor Rilling.
I had another one, sorry. It was mentioned, I think it was Mayor Hansen who mentioned it, about the spray park and I don't remember if there was a decision or somebody said, maybe Mr. Lebsack said it wasn't possible, but to have the water controlled according to the weather. Did that ever come to a conversation I don't feel like it did, but I thought it was such a good idea.
You know, I'm sure there's some form of technology out there that the way you can automate systems. I don't know if they looked into that as much as the intention. Oh, sorry, I will defer to Mr. McIntyre.
Apologies, Council, and I've got an email that's overdue to you on some of the updates from your requests. So I can happily report that the standard operating procedure has been developed for the spray park and includes that the spray park will not operate when the temperature is below 15 degrees Celsius or lower.
Excellent. And actually on that same item about I might have deleted it, but I'm not finding the April 17th email. Could that be resent to me? It refers to in this list, response provided on April 17th regarding the safety concerns of the playground remaining open year-round. I'm not seeing that email. Did it come from you, Mr. Mike? Wherever it came from.
We'll make sure to circulate that to all of you.
That would be fantastic. I have been known to have a rogue delete from time to time, and I think that must be what. So these things happen. Thank you. Yeah, I do those too. Actually did one this morning. It was a Monday thing, I thought. Thank you for bringing those up. Any additional items on the CEO report? All right, seeing none, council requests for information and updates. Do we have anything? Very good. Notices of motion. We have a couple before us, the first one being mine. And tonight is the second time that you've heard this from me, so it's an opportunity to discuss. And my motion is to request that Sylvan Lake specific budget information be shared with council within 72 hours following the annual provincial budget announcement. This request aims to enhance our understanding of how the budget changes will impact our community. The information provided should cover the following topics. 1, specific funding changes from the province to the municipality compared to previous years. 2, areas of disappointment. 3, areas of excitement, and 4 areas of caution that should be brought to council's attention. And the rationale behind this is every year when the provincial budget drops, I am asked the question on many of our committees in many resident conversations, well, how does this affect us in Sylvan Lake? And I'm just not able to easily find the data that I'm looking for. So being able to, in a relatively short amount of time after the budget information say, well, this budget looks promising for Sylvan Lake, or this looks terrible. We know that we've lost out on a number of grants, the programs don't exist, or what things we should be looking for to comment on that budget process. Sometimes we still have an opportunity to influence and discuss items that are in that preliminary or in that budget conversation, and I just often don't have the data to do so, so I'd love to be able to get that, but it really isn't valuable a couple weeks after the budget information. It's got to be a fairly quick turnaround, so I know that's additional work, but I do think a lot of it could be looked at ahead of time and just be a standing year-to-year document that's got some key points that we look into and see what the changes are. So that is my request. I'll open it up for any debate. Councillor Ostindi.
I like the thought. My only question, and it's to admin really, is the 72 hours. Do we need to say 72 hours business days, you know, in that sense? Or do we, is 72 hours enough? 3 days, is that enough? That's my question really. But I am keen about having some, and it's the way you described it, Mayor Hansen, was you weren't looking for the deep dive, you were looking for the budget line impacts kind of thing, yeah, which is not the deep dives.
And I will say, I think that is a challenge, especially because the budget comes on Thursday. My challenge is Monday is too late. I really am looking for it, or Monday is maybe just the end of that. Wednesday the following week, almost a week later, not that incredibly helpful. Ideally, I'd love to see it Friday. I was just trying to be kind, so. And what I can say is that there are other organizations and municipalities that often do produce this next day. So it would be a stretch, but, and I'm sorry for that, but I do think that it is reasonable. That is the time frame that many others are able to share that. But please answer that question and you can still sway us why it's not.
I think we could work as a team to gather the information and make this a priority. If this is a priority of council, then I would make a point of setting a meeting with the appropriate, and I defer as well to Ms. Devlin as the General Manager of Finance. Do you agree?
Yes, I would agree that if it's a priority for council, we will ensure we get that done.
Yeah, we'll make it happen.
Any additional debates? All those in favor? That was really quick and jarring, sorry about that. And opposed? And that was carried unanimously. We have the first review of a motion from Councillor Parsons up next.
Move that council direct administration to proceed with the necessary steps to request the installation of signage on provincial highway identifying historic Lakeshore Drive, and any associated costs be brought forward to council in the next budget cycle.
Excellent.
Not that many reasons, it's fairly self-explanatory.
Very good.
Thanks, Ms. Devlin, for bringing it forth in the ones that we haven't dealt with yet, so.
That's great. We are not debating tonight, so we'll have an opportunity to do that at next reading. I appreciate you bringing it forward. You are right, that notice of motion is 15 years in the making.
10.
Happy to see that come forward. We have nothing for closed meeting tonight, so we've reached the end of our agenda and our meeting is... We do not. We will vote next week, or next meeting. He was just giving us notice that a motion was coming. Oh. Yeah. So with that, our meeting is adjourned.
Okay. Did you say adjourned?